Welcome to a new episode of thatwhatis.com talks. And today I am sitting with my friend Aaron Meli, whom I met here in the Sacred Valley, Pisac, and also around San Salvador. And we have had the pleasure to spend the quarantine together and had incredible journeys, beautiful ceremonies, Wachuma hikes in the mountains. And Aaron is a very talented human being, and I want to discover in this interview more about it, about his life, about his music, about his relation to plant medicine. And so, Aaron, thank you very much for accepting this interview and spending time here with me on this bench and talk about things that really matter to you. So as you are a very multi-talented person, how would you describe yourself today?
Oh, thank you, Niels, for having me on your podcast here. It's a real pleasure to be speaking to you now on my last day in the Sacred Valley. I would describe myself as a facilitator, somebody who works with sounds and vibrations in order to channel a space for people to express themselves and for people to find themselves or to discover parts of themselves that maybe they haven't yet explored. That might sound a little bit confusing to some people, but my background is in African drumming.
Okay.
I started African drumming.
But before you go into that, before, who were you before that? I'm very interested in knowing people's evolution of, what they thought they want to do, or who they thought they would be going to be, or was it always a life dream, or have you been in a different life situation before?
Oh yeah, as a teenager, I wanted to be a professional golfer.
Okay.
And from the age of 9, I would play golf with my dad.
Okay.
A couple of times a week, and I would carry my dad's golf clubs, and he would double my pocket money. And then I started playing golf, and if I beat my dad, he would triple my pocket money.
Okay.
But if my dad beat me, I wouldn't get any pocket money. So I started off playing golf, and by the age of 11, 12, 13, my only dream was to become a professional golfer.
Okay,
And
I didn't know that.
That was, up until I was 15, that was my big dream, was to follow my passion for golf.
And where was that?
That was in Wales,
Okay.
where I grew up. I grew up in a town called Bridgend, and I played golf at Southern Down Golf Club, which is overlooking the Ogmore Estuary and the highest sand dunes in Europe, I believe. A really beautiful place, right up on the hill, and sometimes it would be the most glorious day of sunshine and a beautiful walk, accompanied by these visions of the shots that I wanted to make. And other times it would be in gale force winds, decked out in all of my waterproofs and basically fighting against the elements to get that little white ball into the little tiny hole,
Wow.
Yeah.
And so did you start training? Like, did you play?
Oh yeah, I played and I practiced, and during the summer holidays I would be on the golf course 6 out of 7 days of the week. My dad would drop me off before work, which would have been about 7:30 in the morning. I'd have my packed lunch, and I would go out on the course, usually on my own, and I'd hit the ball around for 4 hours. Then I'd come back to the clubhouse, I'd have my lunch, maybe a sneaky plate of chips or French fries for our American cousins out there. And then I would go onto the range and practice my chipping, practice my putting, and I'd maybe go out and play another 18 holes. So up to 9 or 10 hours of practice a day.
Wow.
During the summer holidays, and then when I was in school, on the weekends, Saturday, Sunday, and maybe in the summertime when the nights are quite long in Europe, I'd get to play maybe 9 holes after school.
And any competitions?
Oh yeah, I played in many competitions. I won quite a few competitions. My name is on the clubhouse
The Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame for winning the Peace Cup, I think it was called, the Challenge Cup. Myself and my father won the Parent and Junior Cup one year when I was 14 or 15, which was an amazing achievement at the time, and made my dad very proud, and made me very happy to have been able to win that, with my father.
Wow,
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
And what happened then? How did...
Yeah, what happened was, as I grew older and developed, let's say by the age of 15, my handicap was down to 8. And if you're not familiar with golf, that's basically saying that my score would have been 8 shots more than a professional standard, let's say. And what happened was the young up-and-coming golfers, some of them 12, 13 years old, were also 8 handicap, but then they went on to become 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 handicap. And so I was eclipsed, essentially, by these younger golfers who were more skilled and more talented than myself. And I had an opportunity early on to watch Tiger Woods play golf face to face, because he played a tournament in Portugal, which is where I went to school. And I went to watch Tiger Woods play golf, and he was only maybe 19, 20 years old, but his handicap at that time as an amateur was +4, which means that he was 12 shots better than me on average per round of golf. And I had worked my socks off to get my handicap down to 8, and realised, okay, I'm a decent golfer, but I'm not gonna be a pro standard golfer. And so that dream kind of just slipped away, and I realised that, that dream wasn't gonna be achievable.
Yeah. So what did you decide to do?
Well, I guess I focused on my studies and my schoolwork, and so the first subject, the only subject in school that I was really motivated by was French.
Okay.
And so I decided to throw myself wholeheartedly into the study of French, and I'd already had a few exchange experiences in France with host families, and I'd stayed in Brittany for 2 weeks, and I'd stayed in Paris for a few weeks, and the next year I went back to Brittany and continued my studies of French, which then motivated me to wanting to go to university to study French.
So you studied French there?
I did, yeah.
That's why your French is so good.
Well, I wouldn't say it's great, but
It's amazing.
I can have a conversation.
Yeah, you do. And is that the connection with Africa?
It's not, actually. My French took me to Quebec, where I had a year abroad studying French as a third-year university student. And what happened was, living in Canada for a year really opened my eyes up to the world. And so I had an opportunity to visit the Rocky Mountains, to visit the United States and 16 different states on a road trip. And it left me with this very exciting feeling of, okay, where next? I've seen the Rockies, I've lived in Canada, I really appreciated the Canadian culture, the sense of humour, especially being quite closely linked to the British sense of humour, quite dry, and when I returned to the UK to finish off my degree, I was only interested in where I was going next.
Okay.
I was not interested in staying in the UK. I had no ambition to live and work in the UK. I simply wanted to go on to my next adventure, which took me to Japan.
Oh.
Yeah. And I applied for a job teaching English in Japan, and it was a job funded by the Japanese government, and the scheme was called the JET program, Japanese Exchange Teaching Program, and essentially I was employed by the Japanese government to teach English in a very small community in southern Japan, in Kyushu, and I had a 1-year contract to teach 4 primary schools, 1 junior high school, and 4 nursery schools or kindergarten schools. Yeah, and that 1-year contract turned into almost 4 years living out in Japan.
How was that?
Oh, that was absolutely incredible. Probably
what did you like the most in Japan?
I liked the adventure and the mystery. I liked the unknowingness of each day, the crazy, hilarious things that would happen to me on a daily basis, from kids having conversations with me and playing with me, to being out with my colleagues, my teachers in social situations, and making all sorts of faux pas that are simply just not done in Japan.
Yeah.
But you can get away with it if you're a gaijin or a gringo. And it was a really incredible, exciting, growthful journey out in Japan. And learning another language as well was really exciting.
So you also picked up Japanese?
Oh yeah, I made a real conscious effort to study Japanese out there. I signed up for a course of Japanese that within 3 years took my level of language up to a degree level standard. So after 3 years living in Japan, my Japanese was way better than my French, which is absurd because I'd been studying French since I was 10 years old. So after 11 years of studying French, my French still wasn't up to the standard that it was after 3 years living and working in Japan. And of course, you know, that total immersion in the culture enabled me to really become proficient and fluent in Japanese.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what happened? So why did you decide to leave Japan?
Yeah. I had imagined that I would stay in Japan, and essentially what happened was my thirst for other cultures essentially gave me the inspiration to go traveling. And so I'd saved up a fairly decent chunk of money from working in Japan, and I decided that with that money I was going to go to Africa and further my studies of the African drum, which I started playing out in Japan.
Okay.
And on my way to Africa, I had a vision of traveling around Southeast Asia, India, and also South America. And so I had this itinerary in my head that I wanted to complete. And 4 months into my trip was indefinite. I was imagining it was going to last years, 2, 3 more years. I received an email from my sister telling me that my father had fallen down the stairs and was in intensive care. And so I had to return back to Wales in order to essentially look after my father. And I became my father's primary carer for the last 5 years of his life. And that was in 2003. And my father passed away in 2008. after many complications, he'd become a tetraplegic, paralyzed from the chest down, and was totally reliant on me. The nurses and the carers were all involved in a comprehensive care plan to look after him on a daily basis.
And you were there when he passed away?
Yeah, I was holding my dad's hand. Me and my brother were holding my dad's hands. I was holding his right hand, my brother was holding his left hand as he took his final breaths. And it was very similar to how my mother passed away in 2002, where myself, my brother, my sister and my father were all around her deathbed in the house that we grew up in. And she took her final breaths, dying of bowel cancer, as we were holding her hand and comforting her, telling her that she was going to be okay, we were there for her, don't worry, let go, it's fine, it's time, She'd suffered terribly for the last few months of her life.
And how has that shaped your relationship to death?
Oh, it was one of the most terrific and painful lessons that I could have ever imagined. In the last days of my mother's life, she looked at me in the eyes and said, all I want is for you to be happy. And at that time, the drum was the only thing that made me unconditionally happy. And so when my mother died, I made a pact that I would turn my life into a celebration of my love for the drum and music and sharing that passion with people. And so in 2002, Slapping Skins, which is my drumming business, was born from the ashes of my mother's death. And so a more prolific lesson and experience I can't think of right now. My mother dying made me realize just how short life is and just what a blessing each and every day is. And so her passing away gave me the impetus to leave teaching English behind and to forge a career ahead with what was really burning my soul. And that was music, that was drumming, percussion, dance, singing, celebration, sharing, this whole community of people coming together to celebrate the moment. And so the moment of my mum's passing gave me this incredible gift of seeing just how important life is and just how important our role in life is of doing what makes us happy. And it's so simple. All you have to do is find something that makes you unconditionally happy and to do it. And there's always a way of making a living from doing what you love. And I really believe that, I mean, I've had a very privileged upbringing, and when my mother died, I was in a very privileged position because, I had graduated from university. My university education was all paid for by the British state at the time. It's no longer the case, but I didn't have an incredible amount of debt leaving university, and even if I had, after a year or two working in Japan, that would have been wiped. And so my mum died. I'd almost finished my contract of 3 years teaching. I had a healthy bank balance and a head full of exciting ideas about what I wanted to do next, and how I was going to honour my mum's life by doing exactly what it is that I'm here on this planet to do.
Now you say that, and when I hear you drum, it really shows. It shows the the honor and the celebration for life and death, and doing what needs to be done and want to be done, like no excuses right now, don't waste time, just be here and now and enjoy as fully as possible.
Yeah, I can't think of a more beautiful way of honouring our ancestors who have been through countless different challenges and painful scenarios than to step up and really find what it is in life that you're here to do, and find those things that you can share in the world that make your life and other people's lives way more enriched.
And can we focus a bit on Africa? Yeah, what went on there?
Well, I've made 6 different trips to Africa, and the first 3 trips were very short trips to Kenya, South Africa, Namibia, as a tourist, doing a safari, doing camping in the desert, and the usual backpacker type adventures. My next trip to Africa was, whilst my dad was still alive, I went out to the Gambia in West Africa to study djembe and the drum that had taken me there in the first place.
Yeah.
That was a short trip, only 3 weeks, and I spent my time getting tuition and drumming with incredible musicians out there, and being incredibly inspired by the quality of musicianship that I saw there. I encountered 2 brothers there. One was 2 years old and one was 3 years old, and both of those children were better drummers than I was at that age. And I'd already been drumming for 7 years, and I kind of scratched my head watching these 2 children drum, thinking, oh my word, like, do I give up now? Or do I take the energy that they're sharing with me and up my game? And so I came back home and I decided to try and up my game and I guess practice even harder than I had before, and put more effort into giving myself those opportunities to come on, you know, and to develop more as the drummer that I'd envisaged I wanted to become. And so drumming was a huge part of my life, and subsequently made another trip to Morocco as another backpacker holiday, and then the trip to Africa came in 2015, where I went to Gabon in Equatorial Africa to become initiated into the Bwiti tradition. And this is the tradition that the pygmies from the rainforest are so integrated into, and they revere a sacred tree called Iboga, and it's the most incredible tree. It's something I knew very little about up to 6 months before leaving for Africa. I hadn't ever heard people talking about Iboga and what this incredible medicine could do. And I had an experience in Wales where I had a very small dose of this medicine, which resulted in the tree speaking to me and guiding me in my day-to-day life. And it also resulted in an incredible healing of an autoimmune disease that I'd suffered from the age of 17 called ankylosing spondylitis, which is essentially a curvature of the spine and very painful inflammation in the body, which prevents you from being able to even turn your neck, you know.
Okay.
And when I connected with this medicine in Wales, Iboga, all of my pains and aches disappeared, and I was no longer reliant on medication. I didn't have to take any more anti-inflammatory pills.
Okay.
And so for the next 9 months, I was convinced that Iboga had cured me. And the journey to Africa enabled me to fully get a taste of this amazing culture and this amazing tradition, and to, I guess, really solidify the healing that I'd experienced with this plant. And so it was the first time in my life that a plant had started talking to me and guiding me, and I was blown away. It enabled me to have this outpouring of grief that I'd bottled up for years, since my mum died, since my father had died. I couldn't even cry at my father's funeral, and there was a part of me that was totally blocked, and a part of me that was a shell.
Mm-hmm.
And the medicine of Iboga was so gentle with me and allowed me this incredible outpouring of grief, tears, sobbing, and it just felt so healing, you know. And that was 2 days after my first encounter with the medicine, and it was clear I was in an incredible process. I had no idea what was coming,
Mm-hmm.
but over the course of the next month or two, Iboga talked to me and told me that I was destined for Gabon, and I was going to go and become initiated into the Bwiti tradition, which I knew nothing about. And even to this day, it's such a mysterious tradition. You know, I've got a very surface level understanding of that tradition, but I was initiated into the tradition in Gabon in 2015, and it was a 2-month trip, and the first 3 weeks was my initiation in a village called Ebando on the outskirts of Libreville in Gabon. And if I was to describe that experience in one word, it would be empowering. Because Iboga showed me a little of my life path and what was lying ahead for me, and what I needed to do in order to fulfill my destiny. And I've got so much love and respect for Iboga and the Bwiti tradition, and it's directly responsible for allowing me to live the life that I live today.
Wow, it's incredible. And so that first encounter with that tree, going to talk about that later, but brought you also to other trees, right? You have this very special relationship to trees, and the wisdom the teaching they give you. How, like with the Iboga, how would you just a little bit like describe that precise interaction with the tree when you said like the tree speaks to me, just for people to understand, and also for myself to understand, like how does that feel, or how does that relationship work?
Yeah, it's like an inner guidance system which is directing your every move. And to give you an example, my job since 2002, 2003 has been facilitating drumming workshops with my business, which is called Slapping Skins. And in the course of my work, I work with groups, sometimes up to 500 strong. And so I'll have a van full of 500 instruments that I'll unload, and I'm the conductor, and I will conduct everyone to play in unison with each other. One such occasion, I was in a forest employed by a local authority in South Wales. And I was working with a group of people with special needs, people who were carers for children with special needs, and we had a group of 20 people in that circle. Everyone had a djembe drum. I was showing them how to play West African traditional rhythms, and suddenly, in the middle of the drumming, I motioned everyone to stop. Okay, now turn to the person next to you and ask them how that last section made them feel. And so share with your friend, just for 2 minutes, what was coming up for you in that moment. Okay, so 2 minute sharing. You have 2 minute sharing. Okay, after 4 minutes or so, we're gonna initiate a sharing circle. And this is not something that I had done. This is totally new territory. But the spirit of Iboga was directing me. And in that moment, afterwards, it turned out that one of the ladies who had shared was talking to her partner and telling her that that last section of the drum rhythm was making her feel very anxious and very scared. And it turns out that her daughter at the time was 3 months pregnant. Her daughter had lost the last 6 children. And so this lady was praying that her daughter would give her a grandchild. But she was terrified that she was going to lose another baby. And after she shared that with us, I said, okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to play this rhythm. And the rhythm went like this. Happy baby, healthy baby, happy baby, healthy baby. And we had 20 of us chanting that in the woods, all playing the drum rhythm, all singing. And then after the session, the woman came up to me and thanked me. I said, oh my God, thank you so much. You know, like, I need to keep doing this prayer, you know? And then, for some inexplicable reason, I said to her, okay, you're going to go to the tree in the bottom of your garden. I had no idea what that tree was. But she told me, oh yeah, I've got a rowan tree. And a rowan tree is a very sacred tree in Celtic mythology and in British culture. A rowan tree would have been planted in the garden to protect from evil spirits and to protect from witches. And it's got red berries and very distinctive leaves. And I told her, you're going to take this drum. I'm going to give you this drum for the duration of your daughter's pregnancy. And every day, you're going to take this drum down to the tree and you're going to chant, healthy baby, happy baby. And she took the drum, and that was that. And I was driving home thinking, hang on, I've just given one of my drums to this lady that I don't know. I'm not sure I'm going to ever get that drum back. What the hell have I done, you know? And Iboga came into my head and said, shut up, keep driving, you did the right thing. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then 6 months later, I received a phone call. And it's the lady. She's like, oh, Aaron, thank you so much. My daughter has just given birth to a healthy baby boy. And I want to thank you so much for lending me your drum. And I've got your drum, and you can come pick it up whenever you're ready. And it blew my mind, you know? Because Iboga got into my head. Iboga was using all of my skills and talents as a facilitator in order to bring about a process of healing for a lady that I didn't know, but had joined our healing circle that day. And I hadn't called them healing circles. They were drum circles. It was for drumming. Healing, for me, was something different, you know? But in that moment, I understood that Iboga was connecting me and my talents of facilitating space into a healing space, regardless of what I would call it. If it was called an African drum circle or an African drumming workshop, regardless, there was going to be some other work happening, and that's one example. Iboga just kept giving and giving and giving, and it was the gift that kept on giving because it infused me with such an incredible energy and life force and vitality that I was able to quadruple my output of what I was doing and quadruple the gift of giving, which is what you set up when you create a space for people to share. And so I knew after that first few months of meeting Iboga that Iboga was going to play a massive role in my life, and it has, and it's connected me up with other plants and trees and traditions that I've subsequently really dove into and become fascinated by different shamanic traditions. Following my initiation with the Bwiti in Africa, it took me on the journey to the Peruvian Amazon, where I was able to study with Chipibo curanderos. The Chipibo tradition is an incredibly beautiful shamanic tradition from the Peruvian Amazon rainforest, and that was my next chapter. That was my next mission, was to throw myself headfirst into the study of these incredible healing plants and sacred trees from a different jungle.
And let's dive into that a bit. Where in Peru was that, and how did you go about?
So I ended up 2016 signing on to a initiation course. It was an 8-week initiation course run by the Ayahuasca Foundation. And the Ayahuasca Foundation had teamed up with a family of Chipibo healers, Don Enrique Lopez Fasanando is the shaman or the curandero who leads up this course. And a friend of mine from Wales had been on this course. And he told me when I got back from Africa, oh bro, if you enjoyed Africa and the jungle in Gabon, I'm sure you were going to really enjoy the jungle and the tradition of the Chipibo in Peru. And what happened was by September, October time, my symptoms started to reappear in my body. And I started freaking out because I was cured. I was totally cured, and that disease had left my body. And suddenly I experienced these symptoms reappearing, and I panicked. And I was like, oh my God, like, do I have to go back to Africa? Do I have to eat more Iboga? Do I have to enroll in another initiation course in learning more about other plant medicines? And I was guided to sign up for this course in Peru, and it's just outside of Iquitos, which is, I believe, the biggest city in the Amazon rainforest. So I signed up for this 8-week course. I flew out to Peru. I met the facilitators of this course. I met Enrique, the curandero who led the course, and for the next 8 weeks we went through possibly the most grueling and exhausting but inspiring experience of my life. And again, all of my symptoms disappeared. And so the plants were showing me a light at the end of the tunnel that was to be able to live in complete harmony and vitality. And I left Peru thinking, wow, I'm cured again. And for the next 8 or 9 months, I had 0 symptoms. And my friends and family back in Wales were so happy for me, because I'd been struggling with this autoimmune disease for almost 20 years. And so to be free of it was just the most extraordinary gift. And I started really understanding how some of these plants work, and I started to really understand the technology of the dieta, which is a way of working with sacred magical plants, and essentially inviting their energy to fuse with your own energy in your body and to become your teachers. And so my first year in Peru, my first 2 months, let's say, was totally taken up with the study of Noya Rao, which is the most sacred tree for the Chipibo tradition, and Chiricsanango, which is another powerful healer plant. And those are my first 2 diets in my first year of being in Peru, which gave me such excitement and inspiration to continue this path that I'd only just started taking baby steps into.
And it's so fascinating. Can you speak a bit more about Noya Rao and Chiricsanango?
Of course. So Noya Rao is known as the flying tree, the tree of light, the enlightened tree. This tree was considered to be a mythical tree by the Chipibo, and I believe there's 50 or 60,000 Chipibo in the world, and they're mostly centered around Pucallpa, which is a 5-day boat journey from Iquitos. And over 95% of Chipibos would have heard of Noya Rao. Maybe 100% would have heard of Noya Rao, but none of them would have ever seen this tree because it wasn't growing anymore in Pucallpa. And the legend was that this tree had disappeared. And my maestro, Don Enrique, had bought a property near Iquitos, and he had found this tree. And the leaves of this tree glow in the dark. So when you approach the tree in the jungle in the night, you can see these glowing leaves. And friends of mine have told me about glowing mushrooms that grow out of the bark of this tree. And this is the first dieta experience I had, was drinking the extract of this tree, which is a cold infusion of the roots of the tree. And my first night when I drank this extract, I had the most incredible dreams. And it was almost like after the spirit of Iboga had come and taught me so much, this other spirit of Noya Rao was coming, and it was getting to know me through my dreams. And it was getting to know me through all of these subconscious thought patterns that even I'm not aware of, but she was getting to know me profoundly just in the matter of that one night. And it was a very subtle introduction to that energy for me. It wasn't like Iboga. it was something that I had to really work hard to cultivate that relationship. Iboga just decided, I'm gonna have you, you're coming with me, okay. Noya Rao, it was very subtle, and even after 3 weeks of drinking the tincture or the cold extract of Noya Rao infusion, I wasn't entirely sure that I had a really good relationship with Noya Rao. And then my maestro suggested Chiricsanango because he understood that I was suffering from ankylosing spondylitis, which is essentially an inflammation in the joints, a degradation of cartilage and issue with my bones. And Chiricsanango is such a prolific medicine for arthritis, for strengthening the bones, strengthening the skeleton. And so he suggested that was going to be a really prolific teacher plant for me to heal me, but also to strengthen my resolve, because he describes Chiricsanango as armor plating, and when you diet Chiricsanango, it gives you an armor. And so Chiricsanango is one of those plants that offers you a lot of protection. And so I took his suggestion, I dieted Chiricsanango, and then I left Peru thinking, wow, what a crazy experience. And I knew I was going to come back to Peru. I knew that was the start of a journey. And I've been coming back to Peru every year for the last 5 years. The first year, 2016, I was here for 3 months. 2017, 3 months. 2018, 3 months. 2019-20, my intention was to come for 5 months. But 12 months later, I'm still here because of COVID-19 and the quarantine. And now I'm about to fly back to the jungle tomorrow for another 5 months of training. And so this will be my 6th winter here in Peru. And it's been this incredible journey of dieting. Noya Rao, Chiricsanango, Chuyachaki was my next theatre, then Marusa, then it was Bobinsana, then it was back to Noya Rao, then it was back to Chiricsanango, then it was back to Chuyachaki, then it was back to Noya Rao, and it's like this continuing journey of apprenticing with these maestros, and the maestros are the plants. And my maestro, I describe my maestro as being called Don Enrique. His brother is called Don Rono. His other brother is called Don Miguel. And we describe these curanderos, these human healers, if you like, as maestros. But each of those maestros will tell you the real maestros are the plants. And so my dedication to the maestros is twofold. And it's to these human representatives of the plants, and it's to the plants themselves that my maestros call the maestros. So it can be confusing for people that are not familiar with the tradition, I imagine, to understand what I'm talking about when I talk about my relationship with the maestros. But yeah, there's a little snippet of how that relationship with the maestros is described.
I want to thank you for sharing this incredible journey. I wish we could speak for hours and hours more, because there's like so many things I would like to dive into and hear more about, but I guess we'll have other occasions.
Yes. I certainly hope so.
Yeah, Aaron, thank you from all my heart for this beautiful talk, this amazing time we have spent together.
Thank you, brother.
Happy you made time for this on your last day here for this interview. I want to give you a hug.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And, I guess we will see each other in the jungle.
I certainly hope so.
And I wish you an amazing time, a good flight, and all my love. Thank you.
Thank you, Niels. And just before I sign off, I'm going to mention Bandcamp because
Absolutely.
I've just released an album of Ikaros, which is 100... what is it? It's an hour and 43 minutes of me singing the sacred Ikaros, or chants, of my maestro and his tradition, and I've released it as a fundraiser on Bandcamp, and all of the money that comes in this year in 2020 will go directly to my maestro Don Rono. And I've also been releasing other sound journeys. I haven't spoken about my relationship with gongs and singing bowls and other vibrational textural percussion, which is a big part of my life. So we'll save that for another talk. Yeah. But I've just released another album of sound journey music, which is music for people to meditate to or to journey to, either with plant medicine or without. And so I'd just like to mention that, just so the viewers out there can
absolutely.
Check it out.
And the link will be on the video, and also on the website.
And thank you to anyone who's got this far in the video and has listened to our beautiful conversation, and I hope that some of the words that we've shared has inspired you in some way to really keep fighting the good fight and following your path and doing what you know you're on this planet to do and to share with the world. Basi basi.
Basi basi.
Oh, I love you, bro.